Midwestuary 2025, August 22nd through the 24th in Elmhurst, Illinois. A weekend you won't want to miss with special guests Cale Zeldin, Paul Vanderklay, Rod Dreher, Elizabeth Oldfield, John Vervaeke, and Jonathan Pajot. Midwestuary 2025, the Fellowship of the Spirit. Stay tuned for more details. Visit us at midwestuary.com for ongoing updates.
Hello. So, I had my doubts about doing this stream, and I set it off several times, and it was originally scheduled a couple of days ago. It's Hanukkah, the festival of dedication, the festival of lights, and so the Rebbe taught very much two of his teachings. Ma'at or doche harbe choshech, a little bit of light pushes off much darkness. And he would often tell the story of the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, who somebody asked him, what does it mean to be a Hasid? And the Rebbe Rashab said, it is a lamplighter. But what does it mean to be light? What does it mean? And Preston Sprinkle really is, he's an example of, I don't know if I would say a light with no heat, or something that gives off heat but no light, right? So we have this. So Dawn says, I forgot to Google Preston Sprinkle beforehand. I have no idea who he is. I had no idea who he was either until Paul Vanderklay introduced me to him. Oh, and the Midwestuary trailer is related as well. I'm not going to be going to Midwestuary. As I have always said, I don't want to be in any way considered any sort of, and if somebody wants to jump on and we could have this as a dialogue as opposed to me just ranting, that would be nice. But I'm not going to be going to Midwestuary. It's going to be 3 years after the first Chicago conference. We've had many conferences since, but we've only had one Chicago conference, and apparently that's excuse enough to cap this conference that Pajot, PVK, Vervaeke, and Rod Dreher, not to mention Cale Zeldin, and now I'm forgetting that the woman's name, although she's apparently she's pretty popular too. Like they're going to cap it at 400 people. And that's deliberate. That's deliberate. They don't. Elizabeth Oldfield, thank you, Don. Like there are times when people are just they're too conservative, right? And I understand that. we are like, being conservative makes sense in certain ways, but sometimes being conservative is functionally being a Nazi. Yes, Luke. Preston Sprinkle on blast. He is functionally a Nazi. Now, you're going to say, but, and it doesn't matter because he's functionally a Nazi. What do you do with that? So today, this very nice lady, I hope, I mean, she may have been a not nice lady. It's an estuary sales training class. How many students can you ram through and have cohesive experience? Yeah, I've given up on estuary. Honestly, if they don't want, they don't want. I mean, let's face it. Luke hates any event that has more than 30 people in it. So she may not have been a nice lady. Her name was, where's her name? Ludmila Lipovsky. She was born in Russia in 1941. She was 83 years old. This morning, she went downstairs from the nursing home in which she lived to wait for her daughter to come pick her up at she to wait her daughter to pick her up to take her to the doctor's office, and a terrorist stabbed her 6 times, murdering her. Now let's take a look at Mr. Preston Sprinkle. This is from November 9th. It has been 400 days, this is something he's replying to, of merciless bloodshed in Gaza since October 7th. According to the United Nations and Reuters, the age group with the most deaths, Preston Sprinkle. And yet some have an ethic that says this is morally justified because Israel has a right to defend itself. Those kids are human shields. They started it. Hamas is holding hostages. The UN can't be trusted with the numbers. Matt Crawford asks him, do you have an answer for those objections? And Preston Sprinkle answers, sure. As a Nazi, I hold to an ethic that says killing children isn't permissible as a means of self-defense, to retrieve hostages, if an enemy is using them as shields, if they started it. But other ethical systems say killing kids can be more morally permissible. There you go. He's a Nazi. That's what he is. And he calls his Nazism Christianity. What does he expect Israel to do? And I've searched his timeline. It's filled with baby Jesus as a Palestinian, but no answers. Because he's functionally a Nazi. He's functionally a Nazi. What do you do with that? He's telling me that being a Christian means that as a Christian, the Jews must die. What do you do with that? No, seriously, Luke. I mean, if you want to jump on, you can jump on and defend him. You can try. But, I mean, he's functionally a Nazi. Trip Parker asked me about my tweets about Preston Sprinkle, and said he didn't understand how. And I mean, just to be clear, I'm doing this because Preston Sprinkle really does have he does have reach. Like, people will obviously say, hello, Yoav, Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach. People will generally say that sorry, I lost my train of thought. Back to Trip. Like, these are the type of people who are the worst caricature of a Yoav says, "What do I do? Easy. I form my own country and defend myself." Yeah, and I mean this is part of the Jewish argument that I've had to increasingly say okay to, because apparently being a Christian and being a Nazi, like, Preston Sprinkle is 100%, like, people are going to see Bonhoeffer, and here's Preston Sprinkle being de facto a member of the Reichskirche, right? I think that's how you say it. Like, and there is a certain amount of the Jewish community which is like, why are you even bothering? Like, you cannot reason with such people. You can't deal with such people. There are Christians who will tell me that, like, so I could describe him as the worst caricature of a Christian, and people will tell me that it is a caricature of a Christian, someone who is too holy to have any answers for something like this. Like, what do you do? Like, it would be one thing if like, everybody was like, oh, this person's crazy, obviously, like, stabbing an 83-year-old woman to death like that is just horrific and completely unforgivable. But Preston Sprinkle isn't going to be tweeting about her. When did I hear about Preston Sprinkle? One of the first conversations I had with Paul Vanderklay. He said, "Where's Preston Sprinkle when you need him?" And I asked, "Who's Preston Sprinkle?" And we moved on. I told Sam Tiedemann, I just wish Christians were messianists. And I've been saying this for years. Like, the word Christian literally means messianist, right? The word Christ and Mashiach they're the same word, right? Christians are supposedly people who believe in the Messiah, are supposedly people who have hope who are looking forward to the coming of the kingdom of heaven. But the last thing Christians have is a hope. They have nihilism. Honestly, they have nihilism. That's all they have. And Father Stephen will say, don't lump all Christians together. I'm sorry, this is my experience of Christians. This is my experience of Christians. These are the Christians that I experience, right? I didn't go to Preston Sprinkle's Twitter timeline looking for his rabid anti-Semitism, and that's the only thing I can call it, because it is functionally Nazi. His answer is, let the Muslims kill the Jews. This is Christianity to Preston Sprinkle. Sandy says, just jumping in, I have hope. Well, I'm glad some people have hope. To some degree, I am losing my hope. But I have a Jewish hope. And that Jewish hope is... Here, let's play the ad again.
Midwestuary 2025, August 22nd through the 24th in Elmhurst, Illinois. A weekend you won't want to miss, with special guests Cale Zeldin, Paul Vanderklay, Rod Dreher, Elizabeth Oldfield, John Vervaeke, and Jonathan Pajot. Midwestuary 2025, the Fellowship of the Spirit. Stay tuned for more details. Visit us at midwestuary.com for ongoing updates.
I mean, you're having a an event in Chicago. It's our umpteenth event, well, not mine, obviously. Umpteenth event. They're capping it at 400 people. In Chicago with Rod Dreher. Like, you could have a book signing with Rod Dreher and have more than 400 people. Right? And it's about... Jonathan says, this estuary thing is such an obvious grift. Honestly, I feel like I fell for it. I have spent many thousands of dollars on supporting PVK, estuary, all of these things. Thousands of dollars. Chino was about 200. PVK hopes knows he's going to heaven. That is his horizon. No hope for a second coming, my opinion. Sorry for speaking for him. Yeah, he will say. At least my cat looks happy. Shadow, are you happy? You want to come say hi to the people? Wow, she's actually coming to say hi to the people. Come. You want to come say hi to the people? She's not sure. Well, if you do come say hi to the people. Yeah. 400 cap makes it exclusive, elite. These little cults confirmed. Yeah, that's what it is. It's us and ours. It's intimate. It's elitist. The path is we are the chosen. And hey, How come you've turned into Saul?
Grim tagged me on that one.
I have no idea okay.
Saul. It's a good Jewish name.
Is
Saul.
it? Is it?
Oh, Saul.
I'm not a huge fan of Ball of Tarsus, but that's a whole other discussion.
Hi, I'm Saul of Tarsus. Funny thing happened to me on the way. No, actually, where was he going?
He was going to Damascus, supposedly.
A funny thing happened to me on the road to Damascus.
Rabbi Mullets, how you doing? Chag Sameach, Shabbat Shalom. So our last discussion, you heard about this? I got a medical misinformation strike from YouTube. It's all your fault. No, it's not your fault at all. And whatchamacallit? I complained about it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And even though my appeals were all exhausted on the YouTube system, on Twitter, YouTube was like, oh, we'll take a look at it for you. And they undid the strike and the video's back up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Because and in your defense, and I'm kind of sorry that I did it, and I felt bad because I knew I was throwing out trigger words, and if I'm going to do that, I should do it on my channel, not yours.
No. Honestly, the funny thing was that I mean, part of my whole shtick is trying to bring sanity to things, and it's not like I was like, take the vaccine, you're gonna die. It was actually quite the opposite, trying to have a normal and reasonable conversation. But we don't live. So that's the thing with Jordan Peterson, why he's become so famous in a crazy world. Saying non-controversial things is very controversial.
The one thing that I see great in all of this is that the ice is cracking, or the wall is coming down. Like if they're willing to concede that nothing wrong was said, that's great. That's because I was throwing it out like a machine gun. I knew what I was doing. And at the end of it, I was like, sorry about that, Jacob.
Well, I mean, they ultimately, I think it was because I complained on YouTube and on Twitter, and my thing is large enough. And look, the broader Jordan Peterson sphere, there's a reason why I identify with the Jordan Peterson sphere and not the TLC.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at what happened, with the election, there was you would say a majority of the Jordan Peterson sphere, which did fall into line, understanding that you had to you had to support Donald Trump, whether you liked him or not, et cetera,
Right.
et cetera. And so there was that event in Washington, D.C. My hope had been that our corner, which unfortunately, I am increasingly just leaving. I really am, because
the problem with that, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but you might leave, but we will hunt you down.
No, but you won't. See, that's the thing, Saul.
I'm
joking,
Ron, but
I'm reading your thing. Ron, you have to understand, you're new here.
I am very.
You're new here. I have been here several years.
Right.
There are plenty of people who have been a part of this and have moved on, and necessarily must, because and you can see traces of them I could name a bunch of people. I mean, even Sevilla King, who came up with the term "this little corner," right? She's gone,
Right. Okay.
and there's something wrong with with this community that it doesn't age. It's like Paul Vanderklay's church. When I went and visited his church, I said, "Where are all the kids?" And he said, "Oh, the kids don't come here."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Well, your church is going to die." And he's like, "That's the natural life cycle of a church." And I didn't even understand what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, if you were to say the natural life cycle of a synagogue, like, that is like, what are you talking about? You have you have a natural thing of your synagogue dying?
But
Why are you even bothering?
Well, and the only reason I'm interrupting, and this is going to sound odd, but maybe you'll understand. Dude, we're Jewish. We ain't got a lot of places to go, at least in my neck of the woods. You know, and let's say in Israel, do you have the churn? Like they call it in the corner, the churn. You come in, you hang out, and then you leave.
Right.
In Israel, do they have synagogues where people synagogue hop? Do you have, and I'm not trying to be.
No, I hear you.
And to derail the conversation, what's on your mind? Because I mean, I can talk about anything.
I mean, apparently whining. National Whiner Day was yesterday, actually. No, I really hope I'm not just whining. If I am just whining, then I should. I am hoping that at least the people. I am hoping to light a fire that other people will want to carry, which seems. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Doing all right. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I just caught up on double speed. So.
So what are your thoughts?
I think Preston is just he's just this. He can't get over the whole leftist power dynamic viewpoint. So. That's his thing. I don't think he's actually put much thought into this specific aspect of it, because like he's basically the guy who basically says the things that most Orthodox Christians will agree with theologically, but
lowercase Orthodox, you mean?
Yeah. But then he's all about the weird sex stuff. So like that's like 85% of his channel is like.
That's actually why I went to him, because recently a few rabbis have been coming out and expressing their dislike for how internet culture has become cruel to especially gay Orthodox Jews.
Yeah.
And the internet is being the internet. And I mentioned Preston Sprinkle because I actually think Preston Sprinkle, when it comes to the LGBT stuff, tends to be pretty. I mean, he's pretty right on as far as any Christian I have heard. And that's and I went to his timeline and I saw just dripping anti-Semitism.
Is it all of the pro-Palestinian variety?
Yeah, baby Jesus, like literally baby Jesus in a keffiyeh, literally.
Yeah. So it's not the secret Jewish
Oh
organizations
no
run the rule.
no. He's not doing the Joel Webben thing.
Yeah.
He's doing the Israel is indiscriminately and deliberately murdering babies thing.
Yeah, so that's weird because it's like, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's because there is that weird thing, but you know, because it's, you know, you can do the meme with the two guys, you know, shaking hands or whatever, and it's
I actually I just tweeted that out today. Here,
okay.
let me I literally tweet. This is like the second tweet on my timeline.
Yeah.
Woke left, woke right, racism, anti-Semitism, retardation. There you go.
Yeah. So I mean, that's honestly, it's just whatever. Yeah, he's got a framework behind his definition of Christianity that makes it easy to think about things that need a lot more thought than he was willing to give them. So, which, I mean, you know, hey, it's hard to have. He's got his one thing that is his normal shtick. It's hard to be, you know, to give the same attention to all the issues. So, you know, you could just be humble and not comment on things, but
look, I genuinely think he thinks the pacifism thing is one of his big things. I don't think it's a matter of he thinks he knows what's going on, and he is an advocate for this position.
Yeah,
that's part of my problem.
I think pacifism is a weak stance. I don't think it's Christian. I mean, I think that's so.
If you do it the way the Hutterites do it, at least I can respect that.
Well, so here's the thing, honestly, because I think that obviously nobody can get everything right, and I think that Christianity is supposed to be pluralistic. You know, on the one sense of like we want people to join volitionally, but on the other sense, like we need to get along with the other versions, and so it's like I would see it like my responsibility is very much to protect the right of like the Amish people to not fight by fighting, you know. Yeah. Like I think that's the way it should work. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's when you do and I'm using the word Pharisee in the way Christians use it. But I mean, McMo, I hope it's really clear that I don't just throw the word anti-Semitic around. I really don't. And I mean, if you don't understand that, I don't know what to do with you. But he's Preston Sprinkle is at this place where it's not just resist not evil, which you can. I'll let the Christians debate about what exactly resist not evil means. Certainly, there's nothing in my religion resist not evil. Like that's just sorry, no. But
well, it's like resistance. I mean, it's entirely different thing.
Resistance of evil is sin.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between like, okay, so like I'll use the example of like so with like MAGA stuff, like conservatism without religion behind it. You have like Kyle Rittenhouse. Now Kyle Rittenhouse is totally in his right to defend, you know, the right to self-defense like is defensible, but it does not have like any spiritual power behind it. But there also is like there would have been no point for him to not defend himself. Like that wouldn't have accomplished anything. But a Christian may say like, oh, I will not defend myself as an example of you know, a Christian, you know, principle, but that doesn't mean we can't like use strength to defend the weak and those who cannot defend themselves. So like, which is almost like that's he cares about so much in Palestine. Like, what's his solution there? Like, who's?
Well, I mean, he's supposedly totally resists not evil, except when it comes to the Jews. Then he must resist them.
Yeah. Well.
Like, I mean, if you genuinely believe, right, that you should be this passive person, fine, be a passive person. But yeah, I agree with Jonathan. Not to resist evil is evil.
Being a passive person is a luxury afforded to you by people who are willing to defend like
exactly
civilization.
Exactly. And look, it's not that the line between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism is very thin for somebody who's not ethnically Jewish. It's a line that's deliberately being blurred by people who want it to be blurry. And I hate to say it, but a lot of the Zionists like blurring that line, right? But that the whole point is you have to be able to distinguish between that, right? And if you can't, we need light in the world. And light helps you see, and light clarifies and distinguishes and lets you understand, okay, that's the wrong way and this is the right way. And what bothers me is increasingly I just feel that there may be light, but there's no heat in this little corner. And
what do you mean by heat? And I'm sorry to interrupt. What do you mean by heat, please?
Good question. And I kind of I try to tease the two out between them,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you have a light that's not a fire, right? It's like an incandescent bulb. It's just light, and it doesn't actually, you can't cook your food with it, right?
Yeah.
And in a very materialist way, right? Like, it feels to me like what's going on in TLC is this sterile light that doesn't actually change the world, doesn't make the world. It's not cooking the food.
Can I tease this out a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Is this, and I'm tracking with you, is this place that place to cook the food? And what is it? How is it changing people? And by the way, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just okay. When October 7th happened,
mm-hmm.
I came in here, and I was in shock. It was like a bomb, you know.
Yeah, just a second, Michael. Your mic is really loud. If you could mute yourself while you're not talking, that would be great. Go ahead.
And what it was is nobody mentioned it, and I'm like, it weirded me out. Like it was, life is normal, and I'm like, I was looking for comfort, consolation, just hey, how you doing? Or no comment about it, and I don't know if I'm looking for the wrong. Is it my fault for looking for something that's not here?
No, I think you're absolutely right. Same thing. I would say a much better example was the Trump assassination.
Okay.
Some of us did talk about it.
Right.
But the fact is that there's a lot of people in this little corner who are very wedded to their left-wing religion.
Okay, so
and to some extent they're here because they don't like all the really bad stuff in their left-wing religion, and they're fleeing from it, and but they fear very much what is the necessary like thing of like, hey, now you have to get your hands dirty, you have to vote for Trump, right?
Okay.
And so I think there's a lot of Preston Sprinkle, hate to say it, Mark Parker, Paul Vanderklay to some
and
extent.
here's the funny thing. Now, if I may, Mark and I are buddies. And part of the reason I am...
Be very careful with that. I thought we were too, but he's a psychopath.
Listen, here's the thing. And Jacob, I'm not a... How do I put this? All right. Okay, fine. I'm hearing you, fine. And I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. The reason I talk with Mark and even Emily is if the bullets are going to start flying, or before the bullets start flying, as best you can talk so you don't stop talking. The moment you stop talking, that's when violence usually occurs. Not always. So
but sometimes things have to get kinetic.
And I'm not saying you're wrong, but in my world, because on that day, on October 7th, and I don't own a gun, but I want to get a T-shirt. I joke, I'm like, I don't believe in owning a gun, but all my friends do, and I'm cool with that. But on October 7th, I was seriously thinking, do I need to lock and load? And when I go down that road, dude, it gets dark fast. And I'll finish on this. And I'll land the plane for me. As a Christian, I had to walk that line like, dang, dude, I might be a target. But let me be a target out in the open, not a coward, not a fool. Let me try to make peace, but I won't hide if something goes down. And if something bad happens to me, I will be the canary in the canary in the bird cage. And one of my buddies who's not Jewish, who owns a pickup truck, who might just like me, might be following, to pick up my body and give you a piece of his mind.
So, Ron, before I let Yoav speak,
sorry.
I want to make this point.
Yeah.
David couldn't build the temple because he killed so many people.
Correct.
But he needed to kill those people. And there are a lot of people who they want to build the temple so much they refuse to be the warrior.
Oh, okay. No, I got you. All right. So how do you solve this? So what's the heat? What's heat look like? Like now I'm going to agree with you.
Okay, let Yoav speak.
All right. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
I have a metaphor. Maybe just a nice metaphor. Maybe it leads nowhere. It's Hanukkah today and we're lighting candles. So first you have the darkness. As Ursula Le Guin said, there's only one darkness. And then you light one candle. And yes, one candle drives out the darkness a long way. And then you light, in the second day, you light the two candles. And then things are not very clear anymore because you have two lights and each casts its own shadows. And one candle's shadows are not the other candle's shadows, and it's get very confusing. And then in the next night, you light the third candle, and it's get even more confusing. And finally, when you have 400 candles in a conference, I want to point it this way. Okay. When you have 400 candles in a conference, then suddenly the shadows disappear. I mean, the distinction between the shadows disappear and it's on one light. And I said in another stream this week, I have hopes for the TLC. I have no idea and no plan how it's going to turn out well. But it has been my experience that if there is a churn and people are coming and going, and if our people are focusing on values, and if the group survive some challenges, then there is hope and they can achieve something together. It is possible that something good will come out of it. Possibly I will not be there because of the chant. Possibly I will not be there anymore, but I have my hopes for the TLC.
Without the churn, it would be growing and growing. And there are people who deliberately prefer the churn because they, was it McMo who mentioned the Dunbar number, right? Yeah. I like that Jacob admits that he doesn't understand PBK. I don't know if I said I don't understand PBK. I kind of do. When I say I don't understand him, it means I disagree. I don't know, but a 400 max seems large to me. Dunbar is 150, right? Look, if you are very deliberately saying, okay, my Chanukiah has space for 8 candles and the shamash, and that's it. No more. I will not have more light than this. And there are people who are very comfortable with that. And that's what they want. If it gets too big, I don't want too big. I don't want, and like if that's where you are, that's what you want. Why was I helping you? Like 3 years ago, we had a 200-person conference. Like how many times are we going to do this? And why did when I was helping with the 300-person conference, it was 200-person conference. It was in the hopes that we were building something that would catch fire. And there are people who are like, no. My Chanukiah will never catch fire.
The two ways can work. We have experimented with the two methods. The beginning of the 20th century, we had the country to populate, and we experimented with two forms of socialism. One of them was called the kibbutz. You must have heard the word kibbutz. The other one was called the kvutza, which is female of a kibbutz. And this is exactly the difference between the kibbutz and the kvutza. Kibbutz is unlimited and kvutza is limited. So kvutza is when people are banding together for a purpose, and they do not accept more members further than a certain number. Mm-hmm. And a kibbutz, when it is unlimited and can grow very, very big. Both systems work. You need to, what is missing, you need to have a common purpose, and you need to be more practical. You have to have the purpose needs to be more practical. It's the TLC is in the conversation stage. As I said in another stream this week, the conversation stage is important. You have to reach a certain degree of common values. But then you get to the implementation phase, and I have no idea what the implementation phase is for the TLC. It may come in 5 years or 3 years from now, so it's not even the time to discuss it. Everything turned quiet suddenly.
Well, first of all, Ron left and the thing left. But this is the thing. 4 years ago, I was saying the same thing. We're in the talking stage. The implementation stage will get here. We've gotten to the implementation stage, I believe. And there's a lot of people who are like, no, I like it. I like it how it is.
Okay. I'm not arguing with you. You might be totally right. I'm just saying there are examples in the world with things when good things sometimes happen.
Look, and this is the thing. There's a reason I'm playing the ad. There's a reason why Estuary here in Los Angeles is still held at my house months after I was like, can we please guys, find another place? Like, I'm moving on. Despite the fact that I'm moving on, the next Estuary here in Los Angeles is still going to be held at my house, right? Because I'm not the type of person who's like, oh, I'm going to put if I'm going to take my ball and go home. If I'm not playing with my ball, you can play with my ball. I'm Lotinkom is something I actually believe in, right? But
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that he left because I had so much to talk about biology.
With Ron or with Ron? Why? What about biology?
Continue the other thread about biology.
Okay, I'm not sure I remember what okay.
Of the last discussion.
Oh, I didn't know what your last discussion was. Okay.
No, I know. I'm talking about why your stream getting banned last time.
Oh, Corona. Oh, okay.
No, I didn't. I was attempting to use very obscure language.
Oh, no. See, this is the thing. If YouTube ends up striking me off, I mean, I could just stop the YouTube stream and move on to Twitter. The problem is people are having trouble with the Twitter chat and stuff. I tried that before. Like, look, I am not so committed to YouTube or this channel that if they're willing to give me a strike and if I'm not going to censor myself. Worst comes to worst, they delete my channel. Okay.
Okay. So
yeah, life will
yes, I hope Mr. Cooperman can stay just for a while because I have a few points about biology that I wanted to make.
Okay, so let me actually drop the YouTube stream just in case.
No. I'll be very careful.
Okay. I won't drop the YouTube stream. If I get a strike because of you, Yoav, everybody will know whose fault it is.
No. I'm extremely careful. There is in mathematics there is a proof of the incompleteness of mathematics. It means that no system can be perfect. No system of proofs can be perfect. Even mathematics will never be rigorous.
Okay.
And that is my mental jump here, and others, applying this to biology. And it means that there is no perfect biological system. There's always a crack in which viruses can penetrate. And a virus is a very simple thing. And it thrives on complex system. It's a simple system that is thriving on a complex system. This mathematical statement, it is called Gödel's theorem. So Gödel's theorem applies for systems that are above a certain threshold of complexity. If it's a virus cannot penetrate a stone. It's too simple for it. The minute the system, biological system gets complicated, the virus can find a foot in the door, crack in the door. Now, yes. So, and the idea is the more complicated the system, the easiest the easier it is for virus to get in. The more you put layers upon layers upon layers of defense, you're just complicating the system and you're making it easier for a virus to get in. Now, if you take a biological system and you make it more complicated by turning it into a political system, you make it by orders of magnitude more complicated than even the biological system. And then you just make it much easier for viruses to go in. The only way to minimize infection by virus is to keep the system as simple as possible. That's my interpretation of Gödel's theorem. Now, another statement about viruses, which should be obvious to anybody. A cat begets a cat, and a dog begets a dog, and a chicken begets a chicken. Because in the process of inheritance, there is error checking. When a cat makes a new cat, there is a process of error checking that makes sure that whatever is coming out is roughly a cat and not some kind of a monster. This is not true for viruses. Any viruses, by definition of a virus. Viruses do not have error checking. And therefore, if I get a virus, it's a virus, it's never the virus. So if I infected you and you got a virus, it's a completely different virus because it's a completely different animal. And if I catch the virus next year back from you, it's not the virus, it's a virus. So there isn't such a thing as the virus. There is my virus at this moment, your virus tomorrow. Should I go on with states metabiology, or did I get everybody bored?
I don't know about everybody else. I think I understand the nimshal. You're talking about things that are relevant and people should know. I would like to think you didn't say anything that I broadly disagree with because you were stating scientific facts. Yeah, people. I think people are asking though about the actual pratim, the actual details that we started talking about. Gabriel says, picking up what you're laying down. What percentage of the corner shares his view? I would say that I don't know, but it's large enough that it's not a place I want to be a part of. Like, this is not an acceptable. Emily, food truck Emily, very similar beliefs. And I complained about it, and people thought I was being silly for complaining. This is not a place I would be comfortable. It is not a place I can be comfortable. 30% is a possibility. I'll say 1% is too large. Like, look, we have actual Hutterites. Julian, our good friend, the Hutterite. Like, I can respect that. He's a Hutterite. We're not talking about someone who's like a Hutterite. We're talking about. Did you not see what he said? He calls Israelis evil for being willing to wage war when children die. He said that specifically. No. That's not an anti-Nazi view. The Nazi view is, I only care when my children die. If your children die, I don't care. I don't think you're actually appreciating what's going on. Yes, he would. Because he's the worst caricature of what Christians call Pharisees, right? I don't think either you haven't been paying attention or you don't understand what I'm saying. Yes, Preston does not care about Israeli children. Correct. 100%. Go and search his timeline for Israeli children. He's not going to say it, of course. But here, very, very easy. Preston Sprinkle. Where were we? Here, let's pull this up. Very simple. Preston Sprinkle, right? Search. Israeli. Not. Do I see anything talking about Israeli children? No, it's all about the Palestinians. IDF targets civilian infrastructure. IDF testimony, I'm bored so I shoot. It's only about the Jews. It's only like he is functionally a Nazi. Like you can look at his thing. He is functionally a Nazi.
I have some bad news for you.
Yes.
There are Israeli Jews living in Israel that hold the same view.
Yes, I know.
And even worse.
I know.
And they're very active and keen in reporting their views overseas. And I think that man, and I agree with you, I don't like him at all.
He's functionally a Nazi.
I know, but in his defense, he is being fed information by Jewish Israelis, and his line of thought, like, if I'm bored, I shoot. If the Jewish Israelis telling me that this is what's going on, I mean, they wouldn't be telling a lie. I mean, the Israeli Jews are telling me that was going on in Gaza. They must be right, at least to some extent.
Okay, first I have to say, I know Preston Sprinkle isn't as naive as people seem to think he is, because I've seen, I bothered to look through his thing. No. I don't know why he's functionally a Nazi. I can't read his heart. I don't know him personally that well. But it doesn't matter. There's a level of, look, you're functionally, and that's, if you paid attention to the thumbnail and to the title, I said, with friends like Preston Sprinkle, who needs Nazis? And I mean that. When someone is functionally a Nazi, it doesn't matter if they have good intentions, if they're just ignorant, if they're just following orders, whatever it is. He's functionally a Nazi. Yeah, he is pushing back. Yeah. But again, functionally a Nazi.
Crowd? Preston, there was a guy that he wrote a book that's basically a really conservative like book on biblical sexuality or whatever. And Rosaria Butterfield, the former lesbian lady, like she's been promoting this book and saying like this is the book that people need. And Preston had him on, and they had a conversation or whatever. And he's not. The thing is and this is the thing that bothers the crap out of me, is that people can be all kinds of compassionate so long as there's one group that they can just hate indiscriminately, which for a lot of liberal people is like whatever stripe of conservative. So, and that's the thing, because it's like, if you can't love these conservative Southern Christians, then you're not really doing the Jesus thing correctly. So,
I mean, this is all ultimately the thing of Brave New World. Like you must have a hierarchy. You must have a hierarchy. And if your hierarchy is not rightly set up, you will end up doing the type of things. Yeah. Part of it is, in fact, he is critiquing, and that's part of why I said with friends with like Preston Sprinkle, who needs Nazis. I guarantee you that Preston Sprinkle says to himself, I like Jews more than I like Muslims, and that's why I criticize. I know I can't remember the exact place where he said that. I'm sure he said something like that. Right? But it's with friends like these who needs enemies. People who don't have, and I mean, this is a lot of the conversation we're having in our society right now, including about the H-1B visas, right? It's like, with friends like these, who needs enemies?
I'm sorry to go on a parallel thread, but somebody in the chat asked, is the influencer getting stronger and stronger every time? It's a question somebody asked me. This is what they call the Red Queen chase. Your body has his defense mechanism. Look at this like a lock. You are locked against viruses. And the viruses are trying out to open the lock. So every new virus, there's always a new virus, as I said. Every time a virus comes, it's a new virus. They're trying different keys. Every virus is its own keys, and they're trying to pick the lock. Eventually, they will succeed. So eventually, you will die. So for you as an individual, yes, it's getting worse and worse every year, and you're getting more and more ill every day, and eventually you're going to die. I'm sorry. However, there is an invention that viruses don't have and germs do not have, that God has given us, that accept our faith, that let us survive in this harsh world. And the invention is sex. When we give birth to children, they have a mixture of the male gene and the female gene. So they present to the world a completely new lock. So even if the viruses manage to pick my lock and they manage to pick my wife's lock, my children's lock is completely different. They'll have to start all over again. This is why you don't have to vaccinate. Sorry.
You definitely do have to vaccinate. You hear that, YouTube? You must vaccinate. Okay, Risto, I very clearly made the difference. If you're not going to listen the first time, I have zero idea why I should repeat it. McMosif, no. Pacifism, if it's actual pacifism like the Hutterites, is different than Preston Sprinkle type pacifism. Because, first of all, the Hutterites are actually pacifist. Actually, right? In that they don't get involved with politics. They actually do not resist, right? So notice what Preston Sprinkle is doing. He's attacking the Israelis, right? It's not merely that he's being like the Hutterites. He's functionally a Nazi because he's actually helping the Nazis. Like, he's functionally helping the Nazis. Like, if you don't see that, I don't know what to say to you.
Yeah, I mean, plus just always. So, like, the thing is if people don't understand, like, if you feel bad for the Palestinians or whatever, it's all of the other Muslim nations that refuse to allow any of them to come into their countries. That's like the bigger.
Please, for the love of God, go look at my streams after October 7th and that post that I shared very clearly. Like, if anybody thinks I don't have compassion for the innocent children in Gaza, you're just clueless. I mean, it's not even an accusation that, like, even lands with me, right? Like, if you say that, all you're saying is that you're ignorant. That's all you're saying to me, right? There's a point at which the conversation just has to move on from people saying stupid things. And, like, I mean, I liked the fact that the H-1B discussion on Twitter has been actually moving in new frontiers with actual, like, people disagreeing with genuine points to make, as opposed to the types of conversations, the degenerate conversations we've been having for so long.
I want to give a historical reference. There is a person called Chada'am, one of the people. One of the people is the pseudonym. Like we do today, we are on YouTube, and we're publishing our opinion in YouTube and hide the other, most of us hide under some pseudonym. So one of the people was his pseudonym. And the medium then, let's say 100 years ago, was the written word. So you publish by smearing some ink on some paper. And he wrote some articles, and I was taught one of those articles at school when I was a boy. And it's about the blood libel. Blood libel is when the Christians accused of the Jews of killing Christian babies and using the blood for Passover. And this article was written by a Jew, and it was directed to the Jews. And this article is trying to convince the Jews why this blood libel is not true. And he's pointing to points of law in the Jewish religion that you should not use blood and whatever. Very good article proving to a Jew that he actually should not use the blood of Christian babies for Passover. What is the point of studying it? Is to show me that those days there were Jews that actually believed it. The Christians were telling of the Jews that some Jews are using the blood of children for Passover, and some Jews will say, well, yes, of course, not all Jews, but maybe some Jews, it just proves to you the depth of the problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing where kids go to college, find out that Christianity is a patriarchal system of oppression, and then they come home, tell their parents that, and the parents just say, "Oh, that's nice," and then they say, "Wow, you are an oppressor, mom and dad. I have to cut off ties with you because you didn't immediately abandon your faith because of the thing I learned at college."
There's a place for the internal critic, and I think it's important. I think most people often say I am a very internal critic. I tend to be more critical of my own side than the other side, and I think there's a reason to be like that. But there's definitely a line that can be crossed where you're no longer the loyal opposition. You're just a fifth column.
Yeah.
So how have you been?
Well, pretty good. Done with work for a few days. I took the next couple days off, so till the new year. So,
What do you think about the 400-person cap on Midwestuary?
I mean, I think okay, so I think that makes sense because I'm sure, because it's happening at a church and that's the cap on the size of the church. And it's a big difference when you go, if having it in a church lets you do it cheaper, the jump is significant to go beyond that. So I understand it. I mean, I kind of think, with the names of the people that they got, you probably actually will get people, people that
Ron
are
Greer there.
Yeah. They will be able to get people that are not just, coming for the estuary thing. I mean, I kind of think it would be better in a sense. I mean, I would rather have it that people do more of these smallish things without having to get big names. I mean, if you get the big names, then, I think you are more in a Jordan Peterson sphere. I think that the point of doing the estuary conference thing is that you make it local and you get you spread locally.
Even if it was just Pajot, Vervaeke, and PBK, it like the 400 is already small, just for the three of them.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's very telling that as opposed to cutting the big names on stage, right? The people who obviously they're being paid for and et cetera, they're capping the event so it's small enough so everybody can get the good feeling out of it. It tells you what the goal is. And the goal is, let's not catch on fire. My Hanukkah only takes 8 candles. And you're not going to catch it. I will not allow it to catch fire.
I mean, I would say in a sense, maybe, I'm like, I would kind of like to go. For me, I am trying to do things in the world. So I would rather go, if there's going to be big names, I'd rather there be less people around those big names than more people, because, I would rather make a important, connection that could lead to something.
And that's why I say it's selfish.
Well, but I don't think that the thing is so if this was like a thing of come here and be a leader and take this opportunity and these connections and make something happen in your local town for real, then it might be good. But I think probably a lot of the people are just gonna want to go and hang out, and then go and hang out the next time it happens too. So,
and that's what happened. I mean, so yes, the logistics get more complicated. I mean, I don't think I'm the only event the person who's coordinated large events before, but like, I mean, I wasn't the one coordinating it, but this was part of what I was doing with conventions with Hasbro. Like, yeah, there are people, if they wanted to do this, and frankly, I was like, okay, you like open up the registration, see how many people you get, and if you only get 400 people, fine, you only get 400 people, right?
If they were really smart, they could do it online, like where you have people,
well, that's
watching.
What Pajot did with Symbolic World.
Yeah, but like have people get some people that know how to run a thing, and then everybody's watching it, and then you're dumped into a 8-person or 6-person StreamYard room, so that you could do that during the sessions.
There's lots of ways you could do it if you wanted to do it, including remote watch parties, right?
Yeah.
Like we could have a remote watch party here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
There are lots of ways you could do it if you wanted to do it. But if you don't want to do it, right, then your resistance is really like, yeah, you're giving me all these reasons why we can't do it, but they're just excuses. You just want it to be small.
I mean, it's still the biggest one, so it's that they've done yet. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just, I'm a very conservative in wanting to plan these things, because I've dumped money into ventures that I thought would be successful, and then they weren't, and then I had to eat the loss. So that's kind of sucky.
Happens.
Yeah. Well, but
look, if they open up the pre-registration and 400 people show up, 400 people buy tickets now, right?
Yeah, then they could book a bigger place.
Then book a bigger place. This is part of my whole thing with like why I was like, hey, we need a schedule, and look, when you don't want a solution, which is the fact, it's not like you can. Yes, I have heard all the like. I was organizing events. I know how events work. If you don't want a solution, none of the solutions will work. So don't tell me about the problems when you don't want a solution. You know what else is organized by volunteers, Jason? Comic-Con. And the fact is, ultimately, there are people who are definitely benefiting from. I think the charge of grifter is wrong, but let's face it. There are people who are getting their travel paid for, and they're showing up, and there are other people who are paying for that travel, right? Again, people are pretending like this is the first event. It's not. It's not the first event. It's not the second event. It's not the third event. It's not the 10th event even. People don't want, like Paul Vanderklay has very much said, I want this growing slowly. And I understand that concern. Fine. You want it growing slowly, but now you just don't want it to be growing anymore. It's like, what did I invest all of this time and money and effort into?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that it is supposed to be growing lots of local groups. And that would be more beneficial because then people could find a local group. Because meeting regular is more important than having conferences. If you're going to have big conferences, then that is a different thing. I mean, especially because it's not the same people doing the thing every time. There's not a conference so somebody can be the conference coordinator and they can turn it into a business and figure out the pricing to actually make it profitable if they want and have bigger and bigger conferences and more often. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I do feel like it's weird. I mean, because I do feel in some sense like there's, I think that the need to sort of step up and take responsibility for things and cause things to grow is definitely outside of the popular way that like the Christian church has been operating for a long time or whatever.
what do you mean?
Well, like that it's like this whole thing of the like be humble and just work hard at what you're trying to do, and then like the Lord will give the increase, and like so like trying to like go out and do like make it good and having and be like, listen to me, I'm a leader. Any of that stuff is like, it's like for me personally that's pretty challenging. I mean, and it's also because it's risky, because if I put myself out there and call myself a leader and say people should listen to what I have to say, then I'm responsible for what I say, and I'm responsible for the outcomes of the people that follow me to a certain degree. So, I mean, I think that's, and and obviously you've said this thing many times. In some sense, it's the person who is reluctant to take the reins of leadership is going to be the best leader, but that this is the problem with that reality. Like, unless if it's, rarely do you get the battlefield promotion, where you have responsibility thrust upon you in such a clear-cut way that you know exactly what to do.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, I think Paul has gotten the battlefield promotion several times. He's refused to take it. Like, there's a difference between being reluctant and refusing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Okay, well, I know obviously you have your thing with Paul not wanting him not wanting to head a movement or whatever. I don't, and if that's the case, if he doesn't want to do it, then it does mean in some sense that other people need to be responsible for stepping up. And I mean, I think that, I don't even think that, it is very different. I think with like, it's interesting. Even the way like that I thought about how starting a program, like, and all the stuff I might put in my book, I much more, I think it was wise. I did it all in anticipation of like 4 more years of Biden or whatever, like in that there's definitely like an energy shift of people like wanting to start things and do things. So it's like, oh, well, now it's like, there's no, like, I plan to be sneaky in some ways or doing everything on that lean kind of like minimal requirement basis because I was anticipating people being reluctant to take risks, I guess you could say. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think people are, I hear many people starting things and lots of things where people are wanting to get involved in something. So it's definitely a different kind of scenario, the way things are going. So, I mean, I'm trying to take advantage of it. Hopefully other people do too. I just, I don't know. I mean, the whole thing with like TLC is it's like, I don't ever want to try to like win people into TLC permanently. I think it's like, this is a good thing if it helps you get, like it should have some of that churn or whatever, because people should go to church or synagogue or something and like get a real life and have real friends and all this stuff. Like
Okay.
I see my effort here.
Let me give two examples.
Hmm.
One, when Joey decided to leave Bridges of Meaning, somebody should have taken responsibility and, first of all, not let him. Second, because the fact is he left because he was unhappy, despite what he officially said. And that was a situation where a person who had contributed incredibly to our community was allowed to leave to the detriment of our community because Paul refused to take responsibility. And Paul refused to take the responsibility. I don't know what's going on with Bridges of Meaning now. I don't care. I hope whoever is leading it now is doing well. I don't know who he is. I have no connection there, right? The second example, I don't know if you use thislittlecorner.com. I use thislittlecorner.com. A lot of people use thislittlecorner.com. It was incredibly the fact that Ryan had programmed it was like, we couldn't have paid for that. Like, making that website, and he did it completely for free. He didn't ask for anything. And then when he got too busy to run it, and he said, okay, will someone step up? I'm letting people know somebody needs to step up and take over this because I can't take over this. I will even help you, right? I will help you keep it running. Nobody did. Gabriel, you're echoing.
Sorry.
You may have YouTube still going. I'm going to mute you until you figure it out. And you can unmute yourself when you figure it out. I think you have YouTube going. That's what it sounded like to me. So make sure your YouTube is off.
Yeah, it was. Sorry about that.
No, happens. And as far as I know, now thislittlecorner.com is down. And allowing for that to happen was honestly unforgivable. And I mean, it's going to continue happening as long as we don't actually form community with rules of community, which include, hey, if you spend the time with us, we actually care about you, and we will reciprocate, and we will make sure that the people who have been valuable parts of our community are taken care of when they need that, right? Because if you don't have a reciprocating community, like, that's not a community. I don't know what, I mean, I've certainly seen synagogues where somebody helps, gets tired of helping and leaves, right? But in intelligent communities, in the types of community I like to be in, I follow that person to the next synagogue. And I'm guessing similar things happen in churches. Like, when your church turns away the saints, don't you follow the saint? I don't know. Don't you?
Well, I mean, there is certainly like a turnover that occurs a lot with kind of like a volunteer burnout. I mean, and it's a tough thing because it's a weird thing, because in some sense it's like you know, there might be somebody that has a passion for something and they say, I want to do this for the church. And you're like, okay, great. And then they take over and then, you know, whatever, they can't do it for forever. And then it's like, you know, sometimes it does mean like those things go away. Like you know, it's not great. I mean, like, I think there's like core essential things that, you know, that, yeah, you're going to like hire somebody or find somebody to take care of no matter what. And then those other things, it's, you know, it's like, it can, you know, when it's just one person's passion, then it will always have like a limited thing, you know, a limited energy or whatever. And, you know, it's tough because having that thing is a part of like what makes people the right people. That's what makes them like into the saints. And it's what, well, it's, you know, it's what attracts those people in the first place. I mean, yeah. And I think in ideal circumstances, like stuff does grow and flourish. I think a lot of these, you know, I think in my own engagement in this space and stuff, and it has to be low priority for me. And so it's a hobby level thing in a lot of ways, you know, like I took the time and effort to write a book so that it could become become a legitimate thing that I can justify more time, and maybe, you know, turns into like, it's not even like it has to be like making more money. You know, the money thing is like, oh, if I make a little money, then I can justify the time more so even than like, you know, it's going to replace my day job. Like that's not going to happen anytime soon. But
yeah, let me just address this. Like nobody's trying to guilt trip anybody or command anybody. In fact, it's the opposite. It's a matter of, look, if somebody has been contributing a lot, right, and they're tired of contributing, you should be able to appreciatively, while including them in the community, right, be like, we appreciate your contribution so far, and not contributing anymore doesn't mean you are no longer, like, you have to go away. Like, that's bad. Allowing people to step up and then step back down is really, really good. But it's more along the lines of, okay, somebody's been doing a lot of work. When that person needs to step down, we as a community needs to recognize, oh, this person did important work. Like, let's figure out a way of not allowing everything they did to fall to pieces.
Well, I mean, I think in one sense, it's like everybody that's in here is sort of a misfit person. And like, let's face it, if everybody that was in here had a great group of friends that they were in contact with on a regular basis, most of them wouldn't be here anymore, like, or wouldn't have ended up here in the first place. So, I mean, and that's the thing, because it's like, I cannot be the social glue of a community. I know that. Like, I just can't, I'm married to the person that takes care of that. So, like.
Well, what happened with me is all of my friends got married and started having kids.
Yeah.
And I just became the creepy uncle.
Yeah. That happens. That's a common tale. I mean, the thing is, I mean, you know, I mean, that's like, well, and I'm here honestly because it's like, I had the thing of like, it was just all bachelors, and then a whole bunch of us like all got married at the same time, and then it's like, man, I haven't hung out with other guys for like 6 years or whatever. Like, so then, you know, that stuff comes around again. You know, you need those things. There's seasons and things with these like that. The early years of marriage are certainly, you know, it's tough. It's tough. You get into the thing where all your friends are couples for a while, but then you move on and you get to be like an individual again at some point. But
Gabriel, you jumped on. You had stuff you wanted to say.
Oh, I don't know if I had too much to say. I just hadn't talked to y'all in a little while, especially you, Jacob. So I wanted to say hi.
Hello.
Yeah.
How are things?
As Michael's aware, I'm looking for new employment. I got laid off. So been picking up some part-time stuff and doing some contract work, but just trying to find something that fits. But people have been helpful, and we luckily moved into a place that's a lot cheaper than where we were, so we managed to. We're hanging in there.
Well, I mean, with your trade skills, you could come to Los Angeles and earn a lot of money, but then you would be in Los Angeles.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, my wife's not super keen on moving right away since we just did, but it kind of stinks that we moved for the job, and then there was a big kind of a downturn with some major projects pulling out and downsizing, so it all just kind of happened at once. But that's kind of how it goes sometimes. We're not too worried about it. It's been a good trust exercise.
Oh, thislittlecorner.com is still going. I know Ryan said he doesn't know how long he can keep it going. Is the search engine still there? No, the search engine's down.
Okay, so if I put in this little corner, the first link you come to that says this little corner of the internet in that similar pattern, with that glossary, it's just got some LA videos, something or other on it.
The actual search engine is down.
Right. But if you go to the second link that comes up, which lists the glossary, there's some fun stuff.
There is still fun stuff, but the actual search engine is down.
Yeah.
But hey, John has a contracting business, so
where is John located?
Here in Los Angeles. Well, outside of Los Angeles. But,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Kind of what I'm running into is stuff. Well, part of it is I have a lot of skills that I gained through experience and I don't have any nice little pieces of paper that say anything about me in terms of education. And so I'm running into overqualified for certain things and underqualified for others. Just trying to find a happy medium there.
Yeah, honestly, if you did come to Los Angeles, I would be like, start a handyman business. I already know several people who could use you, and like as an independent handyman, I know I personally know enough people who would hire you that like it would keep you busy for at least a few months.
Yeah. But, I don't mind the handyman work. I'm more on the design, innovation, systems, and protocol development side of things. I can do all the fabrication and I can do all the work, but I would say I'm more passionate about that aspect as opposed to the building. I do like building, but it's more, I would say I'd prefer prototyping over manufacture.
Have you considered actually like starting a business and like producing stuff?
I've certainly considered it, but the place we're in right now, I'd have to have some sort of partner who I have a decent network of people who would invest, but I'm not entirely sure what I would do given my interest is in the R&D and developmental side of things.
You know what? Contact me later. There's somebody I want to put you in touch with. Cool.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a very much an in-between space, which we're familiar with in the TLC. I'm kind of I like that in-between space where you're taking large amounts of information and processes and you're connecting it all and integrating it and making it my goal generally, which isn't a good practice for maintaining a job over a long period of time, is to make myself less and less essential, because that means the systems that I'm developing are more and more efficient and effective. So I kind of you kind of have to find the right niche. In
You
that
have
sense.
to not be working for somebody else when you do stuff like
Yeah. So I have certainly considered it, but I'm almost entirely ignorant as far as how to get that going and how to start thinking about that. So certainly glad to get any sort of input on that end, as far as doing my own thing. But yeah, thanks for asking. How are the book sales, Michael?
I don't know. Had a few. It doesn't tell me like how much money I made until sometime next month or something. There's like been 10 or 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my kid's book kind of peaked at like 3 dozen. So I know how it goes, that self-publishing game. And my other ones that I wrote that aren't available anymore, probably about the same numbers, give or take. Maybe altogether out of those 4, it was like 50. But
I mean, essentially the point was like being in the same boat that you are with the like, having knowledge and experience, but not a piece of paper. So that's my piece of paper now. So
yeah.
that's the idea. Like it gives me some sort of credibility. Like I did something.
Yeah.
So
no, I like that.
Yeah, which reminds me, I have to work on my children's book, but I don't think I'm going to publish it until I get my ACSW when I'm officially a clinical social worker, so I can put that on there. So we'll see.
Gotcha.
Which hopefully was not going to be forever.
Sandy was trying to say something while you were talking.
I was just asking Gabe what other books he wrote.
Oh, I'm sure you've run into the things that I'm trying to figure out with my flower designs. And one of them was a impenetrable attempt. It happened during COVID because I lost my job during COVID too, the job I had before. So I was like, well, might as well take this time, and wrote the first version. It was me just trying to get all my ideas down on paper as clearly as possible. And there were a few people who appreciated it, but nobody who really understood it. And then the second one was a clarification of that based on the newer design that I had done. And then the third and fourth were little parts of that. They were all kind of related. And I had access to InDesign software, so it was easy to make a nice, clean layout and to publish the book. So I was just putting them out there and trying to link people to them and see if I couldn't get a little more conversation going. But that's all they really were. It was a good experience.
I'm gonna confess my age and the fact that my memory's been crap since I was 12. Flower designs. You've done some. Did you do all those interesting? What are your flower designs, and where are they?
They're on my X account primarily. I've got them all posted on there. I've got the latest one pinned right now. I'm pretty sure you follow me. You're on X, right?
I follow. Yes, I also tend to follow myself on some stuff and save everything to computer, because that way, when my mind betrays me and won't my recall doesn't work well, then I can at least figure out what are some of the things that I can search to figure out what it is I'm trying to find and where would I have put it. And I'm awesome at workarounds, but yeah, I probably follow you, but I'm like, it's pretty sad.
All right. If you get a chance, check them out. It's certainly a passion project because it does not generate any income. I'd certainly be happy for it to do so one day, but I don't know what that would look like.
Yeah, unlikely. I hang out in creatives communities, and I'm working on I'm paying somebody at the moment to help me to work on a chapbook of poetry. But the chances of me actually earning back anything that I've paid out is very low, because most authors and whoever I talk to, unless you happen to be big time with, whatever the genre is, and with the big company that wants you, you might make about $99 a year. At least that's the rumor where I hang out.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
get that.
You do it because you want to do it, and because, yeah, it kind of fills your life up in other ways. It's the connections, it's
Yeah.
the people, it's the stuff.
Well, it's having done that was what got my foot in the proverbial door around here in TLC. So, because I had all those conversations with Karen and with Michael, he was the first person I talked to after Paul, and then Jacob and I had a couple conversations, and so that they got me in there, and I've definitely benefited from the relationships I've built. So, and we have an estuary that waxes and wanes locally. So, and Ryan comes occasionally, so I've talked to him. He's been busy and has kind of stepped away, as you've noticed, from TLC. More focused on, because he bought a house, so he's a little more planted, trying to get involved in community, and he's been doing his therapy study and hours and school and all that on top of working his regular job. So, but he's doing good.
I love this place, but quite honestly, before I landed here, I already had 4 or 5 different communities connections in at least as many towns with writing, art, and other creative stuff. And it's hard not to be neglectful when I'm doing things here that also seem important. I do believe conversations are important, and they've been a big part of how I live life. I had an amazing conversation yesterday. I went to the menorah lighting in my local town that's not where I live, just the one just to the south of me. And they do an annual one for the last, I think they were saying 10 years, since the new Chabad rabbi showed up and basically went, why don't we this? Why don't you that? Why don't you? Loved his talk. And I went in to just kind of, I went with my son who's deaf, and just happened there was somebody in front of me in one of the motorized wheelchairs who turned around and suddenly signed something at me and held up her phone, which was using one of those voice to text things. So I said, when we get inside, I'm going to come talk to you, because it was pretty brutally cold on bare fingers signing. Yeah, I think conversation, for me anyways, not as a kid, but more the things that I learned from my children. I still joke that my children raised me very well. I've had to talk to people and in different contexts in their lives. And then it just kind of blossomed into this. Some of the best things you can do are those random conversations you get to have with people. Yeah. So because I talk to people, I now am going to be a practice partner for one of the servers that was there with the food, who's trying to learn and practice the ASL she took for fun at university, and have the contact information also from the lady that I was talking to, who apparently knows Hebrew. And anyway, we're going to talk about it, because she says, oh, I taught. And I'm like, it's like, okay, so you're pretty good at your English. You went to the deaf university, and you're pretty good at your ASL. And she says, I didn't learn it till I went there. She's the second Jewish person that I've met in my life that's deaf, who managed very well with some of their, how do you cope when you're a small community in a small community in a big country, who really fit. Yeah, like when Jacob started talking about this, and I was thinking about the lights, and I popped in the thing, are the Jews like the Chumash in the middle of the menorah? Like, are they that light that
Shamash.
Shamash, thank you. Shamash. Got it.
Yeah.
They the shamash, like the thing that lights other people, to get them burning. And I was thinking about the wind last night and how they had to actually take the lights down to get them to light, because the long mat would stick, how the flame that they were putting up to the height of it wouldn't work. So they had to, instead of going up, they had to bring it down. And I remember like people were watching, but that happened one of the other years too. And I went, they've got it. They've got it. They're going to get her done. This has happened before. I feel like sometimes in our communities, like we may sort of, I've spent my whole life either in autism communities, deaf communities, some of the medical communities and whatever, because of my children led me there. I feel like sometimes we are given the privilege of, meandering through, and it's not a casual meandering, it's an intentional meandering. You may not always live in all the communities that you belong to because they allow you to belong, but it's that open door, that welcome, that, like she didn't have to she didn't have to turn around and show me the speech text. She didn't have to engage with me at all, but we have opportunities both to give and receive those moments. That's why I hang out here. That's the space I hang out for, is those opportunities, just for, and I now know 4 ways to track you. If I can't remember how to find you on X, I know where to look for you otherwise. All the people you've talked to. Anyways.
I hadn't done any sort of online stuff till I came to TLC. So it was a new experience. But now I think it was the appropriate time with all the technology being what it is to communicate a little easier. It's been very enjoyable for them. Actually, I don't think I've had a negative experience yet.
Which is funny for somebody who agrees with me as much as you do.
I'm very agreeable, I think, and very diplomatic, as Horace would say. I like to get along with people. You got to work really hard not to get along with me. I think you have to be proactive about not getting along with me. Generally pretty friendly. I'm not particularly good at small talk for the most part, but I've improved over the years with that. Tend to be more topical, but if you got topics, if you got questions, especially, I love bouncing things around like that. One of the guys in our estuary, he lives right near where we meet, and sometimes it's just me and him, but he likes to develop. He's very quick on developing hypotheticals, and I like to play in that space, so we bounce off each other pretty well. So, but it's nice being a generally very scattered brained, the focusing effect of having conversations with people, because you get that new perspective, and you can play with that, and you have to think your thoughts out clearly and articulate them in a way that hopefully the other person can understand, and that's just a good practice for anybody, really. But I don't think I was getting much of that till I started doing the estuary and meeting people online. So my wife and I don't really talk about these things. We run the house and we get along with each other, but the deeper stuff is generally more spiritual and practical than intellectual. So it's been good for me.
How old's your oldest?
He's 9.
In a few years, he may, depending, start wanting to have all kinds of deep discussions.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, because right now it's kind of, I love him and I'll play with him and wrestle with him, but I'm not naturally good at connecting with children like some people are. They can really they're just on that level immediately, and I don't have that. But as soon as they start getting older, and we can have those conversations, I know I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, depends. Not all kids, but yeah.
So far, all mine seem pretty clever. So if nothing else, they'll challenge me, which will be good for me. So, but our littlest one is about to turn 2. He's every bit of it right now. Cute as a button, but so dramatic.
You have 4 kids, right?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Yanni, it wasn't a fun stream until you got here.
Party arrived. I just came on to say hi, so I'm just going to be rambling. Unless you got something specific to throw at me.
I think I talked about all the stuff I wanted to complain about. Apparently, Whining Day was yesterday. National Whining Day was apparently yesterday.
Well, stream scheduled for yesterday, right? You skipped it over to today.
Yeah, actually, I initially had it scheduled for Wednesday night. Yeah. And then I changed it to yesterday, and then I changed it today. And I almost deleted the stream, but like, yeah, I saw that picture of that poor woman and was like, nah, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Last time I talked to you, you were waiting on grades for something, I think. How's all that going?
So I decided to only take one class for my master's degree this quarter, which I think was a good idea. I don't know. I have to figure out how exactly I'm gonna do stuff, but I think I'm taking things a little slower now, but I think I kind of needed to do that. Don says, I made everyone eat dinner half an hour early yesterday because the live stream was starting at 6. Don, please don't plan your things around my live streams. If anything, on Wednesday, what I should have done was my Job stream, which I didn't. But yeah.
I saw Lynn said, take your 9-year-old fishing. Those are their fishing poles behind me. We do that. So with the 9 and the 6-year-old, almost 7.
Oh, that reminds me. On Sunday, supposedly, we're going to meet up with Jason, but he hasn't given me details of what time and where. I mean, I know where, but like whether we need tickets or... Yeah. This is my cat, Shadow. Say hi, Shadow.
Yeah, when we moved, our cat didn't do well with the move, and she was nearly almost 20, so we had to let her go.
Ooh, Minty. That's, yeah. Honestly, with Happy, she just turned 14, and she's obviously getting weaker. She can't go for the long walks we used to go on anymore. Her hips aren't as capable of going up and down the stairs. So I know I am eventually going to have to make the decision to put her down. But I don't know how long that's going to be. With Duke, I ended up waiting way longer than I meant to. I've always told myself that I'm aggressively going to put my animals down, and there's no point in making an animal go through old age It's not like they're human. They don't have memories. They don't do the connections, right? But I still ended up, at the very least, putting Duke down 6 months later than I should have. So,
Yeah, it's hard. Now we have a lizard and a fish.
well, if you get a turtle, you won't have to worry about it. It'll outlive you.
Yeah.
My youngest just got a lizard. She's adorable. And 10 hours away from me, and I have to wait till I get to meet her.
Oh,
Boa constrictors apparently seem affectionate, but they just want to eat you.
there's a metaphor in there somewhere.
The devouring mother as a boa constrictor. KL says, Israel and Gaza is a complex topic for pacifist Americans. We feel bad for calling the cops on minority criminals, but things are changing. As I've said since the very beginning of this, there's a qualitative difference between somebody who's like, I am a pacifist, I will not defend myself, I will not get involved, and somebody who uses their pacifism as an excuse to be like, defund the police. And it's like, it's precisely the type of people who live in gated neighborhoods here in Los Angeles. They live in gated neighborhoods with armed response and armed guards, et cetera, and then they support defunding the police. And it's like, okay, this is not the same as, yeah, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Just kind of a sort of self-righteousness that you wield against others in your comfortable setting.
I called it the worst caricature of Pharisee. It's such a caricature. It's hard to believe people fall into it, but they do. They really do.
Yeah. But I understand what you're saying with the people who genuinely are pacifists, because there's a line you have to cross mentally where you're willing to let anything and everything happen to yourself based on a certain principle, and you're not even in some sense it's very isolating, because I don't know, I guess there's a way of giving yourself fully, but I think it has to be a calling. It has to be a calling, because the purpose of your life is in some sense ends up being an example of trusting the guidance of God, but there's always the issue of, like you said, the gated communities and the national defense, and even the Desert Fathers had people bringing them food. So there's always that line of provision that allows people like that to give of themselves for the sake of the community. But I don't know, just thinking out loud there.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, if you're a pacifist and therefore you're just crying about the situation, that's one thing. When you're a pacifist and your timeline is filled with attacks on the people who are defending themselves for defending themselves, you're just a bad person.
I think a lot of what pacifism is lifting yourself up out of that, the difficult decision of whether a given situation requires justice or mercy, whether justice needs to be served or mercy needs to be offered. It's a hard question, and it's contextual, and depends on the situation and the actors involved, and it's a difficult thing to do and requires a certain amount of personal responsibility. And the nice thing about the kind of pacifism you're talking about is it lifts you up out of that hard calculation you have to make, and you can just look down on everybody.
Yeah, you get it's an easy virtue signaling of, look, I'm above it all. I don't even have to recognize there's evil in the world. Yeah, Yon God wants to know about your
Yeah, it's an orange.
Oh.
It's I'm playing, this was a fast sketch, but I have a comic book story I wrote. It's just whether or not I get around to doing the illustration, because it took me a long time to illustrate for that kid's book, and it was a lot of work. And
aren't you happy to see me?
So thanks, Yon God. But yeah, I've got the whole storyline. I wrote the first draft of the first issue, and I've been playing with character design. So maybe you'll see something at some point. But those little creative projects, like you were saying, Sandy, sometimes you just do them because you like doing them. You hope that maybe something will catch on, but kind of like instruments, I pick it up and play music because it helps my mind enter a space that I can't otherwise, and that's healthy for me. So that's a lot of what my creative stuff ends up being, is just a way to maintain my personal health, mentally and spiritually and physically. Yeah. A little out of practice though. I was doing the inking on my latest design, and it took several hours to get it done, and my hand was cramping pretty bad. It's like I should probably do it a little more often. But yeah, no promises on when that's going to come out though. So what else you got, Jacob?
Mark is going to be streaming starting in 45 minutes, so I don't know if I'll go that long. Yeah, I didn't know how long it would be, but Friday afternoons people are usually pretty I mean, there's a lot of people watching. There's like 15 people watching.
I'm gonna have to hop off shortly for dinner anyway. So
you're in Texas.
Mm-hmm. And we eat pretty early, usually around 5:30, 6 o'clock. Less indigestion once we go to bed.
Yeah, I actually, so yeah, I'm getting older, and as you get older, you end up having more and more digestion issues. I woke up the other night in the middle of the night because I had yogurt before going to bed, and it's like I have to remember not to do that because I'm an old man.
I love my spicy food. Gotta be careful how late I indulge. So
funny enough, I grew up. So Persian food is not spicy at all. Like my dad seriously believes and says, you add spice to food if you have bad ingredients. Like he totally believes that. Like if you have good fresh fruits, vegetables, and meat, then you don't spice it up with a bunch of curries, etc., etc., etc. And I grew up like my mom might have bought this much black pepper when we got here, and she still has it. Like that's about as spicy as our food gets. And but as I've been getting older, I've been trying to I've been eating jalapeno pizza and stuff. And for most people, it's like jalapeno is like about as mild as it gets. And for me, like jalapeno is like at my upper limit. So it's very funny to me. Like some people are like, I so I went to this place with Trey that's known for their spicy chicken, and they ask you on a scale of 0 to 5 how spicy you want things, right? And I figured if I say 0, I'll be fine. So I said 0. My mouth, I could still feel it in my mouth 2 days later. I asked for 0. I figured 0 actually meant 0. Nope.
No, my go-tos are habanero and Thai chili. Those are my favorites. Good medium heat in terms of what's out there, and I enjoy the flavor on both of them. Hold on just a second. Never mind.
Yeah, actually, so Vaughn's, which is the grocery store right next to me, makes habanero mango chicken. Yes, this is not kosher. I'm sorry to tell people. And it's not very spicy. There must be very little habanero in it because I eat that just fine. Yeah. But I'm guessing there's like nothing in there. Oh, kitty.
Here's the littlest one.
Hi.
You say hi. I don't think he's figured out you can talk to people on the screen yet.
Hi.
So you got your pizza? Homemade by mommy. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Homemade pizza.
There's a smile.
What's your name?
His name is Bridger.
Bridger.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And he's getting real good at his temper tantrums. They
aren't
too often, but boy, are they theatrical.
Well, I mean, I hate to tell you this, but if you respond to the temper tantrum the way they want, they will get better and better at it.
Oh, yeah. No. It's more for him because we don't give him what he wants. Right now, it's a series of new attempts to get us to do what he wants. So it's you never quite know what you're going to get. So he's pretty creative with it.
I don't have an answer for that.
Why is Siri talking to me?
I do not know. Yon God says, kids of these ages traumatize me. 2 kids at this age the other day.
Ooh.
Santa. And I don't even have a white beard. Horrifying. Yeah. How old are you, Yon God? I think he looked like he was in his 20s. Yeah.
I don't think I've interacted with him yet. I've seen him talk a couple times. We might have popped onto the same stream once. But.
It was actually really interesting when he jumped on one of the Bible studies. So on Thursdays, David does a Bible study, and I think he's on Samuel, and Yon God jumped on, and he was saying all of these interesting things, which I'm not sure. Like, yeah, he's a joker. He is a joker. Don, you got to jump on one of these days. You've become a regular.
Yeah, I remember Don commenting on, I think, some of the Karen videos I was in way back, or something.
Really?
Maybe the Paul. They might have been the rando with Paul. I just remember the flowers in her little icon there. Up. Yeah, you figuring them out? Put them on full screen. There's a wave. Yeah, they wave back at you. It's like I've never talked to the TV before.
Here, you can see yourself. There you are.
Yeah. Are you gonna pick your nose? Oh. Yep. There it is. Get those boogers.
Well, you kind of have to sort of do that. Yeah.
Can't just leave them there. Yeah. Oh, I know. Tell me about it.
How old is he? 2, you said?
He's almost 2.
Almost 2.
We're getting quite a few words, but
He's pretty big for 2, isn't he?
he's kind of tall. I don't know if he's big. But may just be the camera.
It is the internet, so we can't. We know. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if nobody's gonna jump on, I'm gonna end the stream. We've run out of content. Good night, people. Happy Hanukkah.
And I'll reach out to you, Jacob.
Night.
Oh yeah, actually, hold on after the thing. I'll talk to you later. Yeah.
Cool.
Bye, people.